Hello everyone, so welcome to this series of videos about objective setting and budgeting. In this first video, I'm going to talk about objectives, the Marcom objectives and tools. There's a total of 13 objectives. Those are the 13 most used objectives when it comes to creating marketing campaigns. So I'm just going to describe each one of them and tell you what kind of tools can be used to achieve them. So the first objective is when you have to release a new brand. So your objective here is to facilitate the successful introduction of new brands. And what kind of tools can you use? You can use brand naming, you can use packaging, you can use advertisement. All right, so brand naming is the type of name you give to your brand, to your product that will influence the adoption. Packaging is how you pack the product. Does it look nice? Is it in line with the type of price and the image you want the product to have? Advertisement is, well, advertisement. Then sales promotion is, for example, when you see sales promotion is anything that has to do with the reduction of price or getting some extra benefit from buying the product in this particular time. For example, when you go to a supermarket and you see buy one, get one half off, for example, that's a sales promotion. Word of mouth buzz generation is basically when we work with our consumers and have them create content online or talk about our brand or talk about the product. So the objective there is to put your consumer in a way working for you. Point of purchase displays. This is those displays that you see on the store. Sometimes it's nice shelves, sometimes it's a special disposition, sometimes it's a special place in the shop or on the supermarket. And finally, obviously, social media will help us as well. The second objective we have is sales of existing brands. So this is when you want to increase the sales of products you already have. So your objective here is to build sales of existing brands by increasing the frequency of use, the variety of use, or the quantity purchased. Here, obviously, the objective is to make sure that our product will be sold more. So what do we mean with increasing the frequency of use? It's, for example, trying to convince people to use your product more times per day, more times per month, or more times per week. In terms of variety of uses is maybe the fact that you can use your product for several uses, and therefore you can point that out to the consumers in order to convince them to buy your product more. And finally, quantity purchase. This is when you try to convince the customers to buy a higher quantity than what they typically would purchase in order to afford a benefit or in order to, for example, obtain a discount. Many businesses, for example, they use this method to conduct pretty much their business model. Like, for example, Costco, who only sells big quantities. In terms of tools here, what can you use? You can use advertisement and you can use sales promotion to achieve this objective. Objective number three. Objective number three is when you want to inform your trade industry. So we're talking about wholesalers, agents, brokers, and retailers that, and obviously your consumers too, that your brand has improved, that your brand or your products now it's new, has new features, has a new characteristic. But here we typically talk more about business to business advertisement. So the kind of techniques you can use to meet this objective is personal selling and train-oriented advertisement. Now, in terms of brand awareness, which is our fourth objective, the objective here is to create brand awareness. And your objective here is to make sure that consumers know that you exist, all right? Or at least to make sure that more consumers know that you exist. What kind of tools can you use? Well, advertisement, always, packaging, social media, and POP messages. In other words, point of purchase messages. Messages in the places where people typically buy this type of product. Does not necessarily need to be displayed, but can be a special advertisement. It can be something that brings the attention to a new product. Your fifth objective is enhancement of a brand's image. In other words, you want to make sure that people will like your brand more. All right, what can you do here? Brand naming, so you might change the name of your brand, although this is always a risky thing to do. All right, you might change your packaging, you might do advertisement, you might do social media. All these things will help you to make people like your brand more, as long as you do them right, of course. But there's extra things. There's also event sponsorship. Obviously, the event you sponsor needs to be something that is related to your brand or something that makes sense with your brand. cause-oriented marketing. This is, for example, events or causes that you defend in order not only you do some social good, but at the same time you generate good marketing. For example, many hotels, they would take in one day all their staff to go and clean a forest. McDonald's, for example, has an association for orphanages, and you can donate money for that association to do its work. So this is an example of cause-oriented marketing. It has a cause, but at the same time it's still marketing. And then we also have marketing-oriented public relations. Public relations, I typically just write PR, just letting you know. But marketing-oriented public relations is when you have public relations that basically go and, they work to make sure that your brand image is increased through interviews, through press releases, through articles, through visits to institutions like education institutions, and so on. This all can help you increase your brand image. Objective 6 is to generate more sales leads. Now, here means that you want to try to attract more potential customers. And to do that, typically what we see is advertisement. Now, it can be advertisement, all right, if we're talking to consumers, but just one quick side note, if you're trying to generate more leads through in a B2B type of business, then you can also use, for example, social media, and you can also use personal selling. Although, to be honest, advertisement, personal selling still are the best ways to generate leads in a B2B setting. Objective 7 is when you have new brands, so you want to persuade your trade or your consumers, wholesalers, retailers, and so on, to handle your new brands. So in other words, you have a new brand, you already have a relationship, but you want to convince them to sell your new product. Let's imagine you produce breakfast cereals, and now you also have a brand of juice. So you go to the supermarkets that already work with you for breakfast cereal, and you want to introduce them and present them the new products that you have. So obviously, what are the two tools that work here? Trade-oriented advertisement, so advertisement in trade-oriented magazines, sites, or institutions, and obviously personal selling as well. Objective 8 is to stimulate the point of purchase sales. So you want to try to convince people when they are in the shop to actually buy more. What can you do? Brand naming, once again, packaging, obviously to show that your package is different from other products next to you, point of purchase messages, but also external store signalage. For example, a signalage that before people enter the shop, they see that your product might be on promotion. Objective 9 is to lead to more customer loyalty. Here, the objective is obviously to increase your customer loyalty. So in order to do that, you can use tools such as advertisement, social media, and sales promotion. The goal here is to communicate more with your consumer to allow them to experience your brand more. Then we have objective 10, which is public relationships with stakeholders. So here your objective is to improve your corporate relations with special groups. For example, if you are an oil company, you need to have a strategy to deal with environmental agencies. You need to have a strategy to deal with government. So here PR takes a very marketing-oriented function, and your public relations is going to be doing a lot of activities to try to show to these special stakeholders that you are doing a good job. Objective 11, brand publicity. So here the objective is to offset either bad publicity about your brand or to generate good publicity. Once in a while, brands will screw up and do a mistake. It is very important that these mistakes are immediately addressed as quickly as possible with a strong and very well market-oriented PR. For example, when sometimes a company produces an image or a product that people might find offensive, most companies come out immediately, apologize, and make a donation to an institution that actually defends what they offended, for example. Now, this is a traditional approach, but the truth is that it works. Objective 12. The objective here is to counter your competitors' communications efforts. So typically what happens is that your competitors start doing more advertisement and you follow suit. You also do more advertisement. You follow what they are doing. So obviously what we tend to see here is advertisement and sales promotion as the main tools to be able to do this, to counter the actions your competitors are trying to do. Objective 13, immediate purchase. So the objective here is to try to convince consumers to buy now rather than buying later. And obviously, advertisement and sales promotion will have a huge impact here. Typically, this is an objective for products that tend to be a little bit more expensive, and therefore you want to try to convince people to spend that money now rather than waiting for a later day. So, I went through a lot of detail to explain objectives. Why is it important to set them? Well, it's important to set them for 3 reasons. Number one, because when you set objectives, it shows that the management is agreeing with the objectives. So you have a unified message, and that's important in especially large corporations. 2, when you set objectives, it's much easier to create your budgeting, your message, and your media aspects, because now you know the direction that you have to go. And the reason number 3, is to provide standards against the results that can be measured. When you have an objective, then when you actually get a result, you know what you can compare it to. And you can see, did I perform below, the same, or above as what my objective was? So, don't forget that objectives need to be SMART. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. Specific means that you need to give details about the what and the how it needs to be done. Measurable means that there needs to be a number associated. You need to be able to measure it. So for example, even if you are saying increase customer satisfaction, that's not measurable. But if you say increase customer satisfaction by 10%, that you can measure. Achievable means that it is possible to do, and that will work together with the dimension of time. Okay, an objective needs to have a time frame. So achievable means that you can do it within a certain time as well. So for example, an increase of 10% in sales might be achievable, but if it's in 1 hour as the time base, that's not achievable anymore. Finally, relevant, the R, stands for the fact that the objective needs to make sense to the overall strategy of the company. If your objective is to increase sales, then maybe you need to have more communications objectives that goes, for example, towards meeting that objective. All right. So relevant means that it makes sense to what we want to achieve. To summarize, objectives in an advertisement campaign are extremely important, and you should spend quite a lot of time figuring out all the details. What are the objectives you want to have for your advertisement campaign and marketing campaigns? And more important, defining each one of them to be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relatable, and finally, time-based. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions.